Right.
Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna, everybody. My obeisances. We have Mother Nidra enlightening us today about another yet exciting topic, very esoteric. And I'm very happy and glad to be hearing from her on this topic of Rasa Leela. And today is the first day of Bhishma Panchak. I hope all of you are having great Kartik. And I want to extend my gratitude, Nidra Prabhu, for giving us your association and blessing us with your wisdom. And Nidra Prabhu lives in Denver, Colorado. She's been serving Srila Prabhupada's movements. She's a Sankirtan devotee. She serves Shri Radha Govinda, which was deity installed by Srila Prabhupada. And there are other videos of Mother Nidra sharing about her experience on the channel, and you can look more for her videos. And every month she's giving us her very precious association. So thank you so much for tuning in on YouTube. Thank you, Mother Nidra. Over to you.
Thank you. Thanks, Radha Govinda Dasi, Rukmini Priya, Devi, and everybody. Very much appreciating your association during Kartik. So today we'll begin with the theme of Krishna Rasyatra, the real love dance. And we'll be reading from and hearing from Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto. There's 5 chapters about Krishna and the gopis meeting and separation, and their Rasa Leela from chapters 29 to 33, the Rasa Panchadhyaya. So starting out with the chapter 29, Krishna and the gopis meet, we'll chant the first text from that chapter. Shri Bhadrayani Ruvacha Bhagavan Api Taratri Sharadotapula Malika Viksharantum Manaschakre Yogamayam Upasritaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So the translation and purport for this verse, Sri Badarayani said, Sri Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, full in all opulences. Yet upon seeing those autumn nights scented with blossoming jasmine flowers, he turned his mind toward loving affairs. To fulfill his purposes, he employed his internal potency. So this is the purport by Srila Prabhupada's disciples. As we begin the famous narration of Lord Krishna's Rasa dance, a dance of love with beautiful young girls, questions will inevitably arise in the minds of ordinary people regarding the propriety of God's romantic dancing with many young girls in the middle of a full moon autumn night. In his description of the Lord's Rasa dance in Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Srila Prabhupada painstakingly explains the spiritual purity of these transcendental activities. Those advanced in the science of Krishna, the great teachers or acharyas, leave no doubt that Lord Krishna is full and satisfied in himself, free from all material desire, which is, after all, a sense of incompleteness or lack. So there's nothing lacking in Krishna. He's complete, no material desires. He's the supreme pure. And all great acharyas and personalities through history have confirmed that Krishna is the supreme pure and that his activities are above reproach and are above materialistic lust. So this is a real dance of love. In the material world, people have, as Prabhupada said, a society dance or a ball dance based on lust or material desires to serve one's sense gratification. But Krishna has nothing to do with material lust. Materialistic persons and impersonal philosophers stubbornly reject the bona fide explanation of Krishna's transcendental nature, there's no reason to deny the beautiful reality of an absolute person able to perform absolute romantic activities, of which our so-called romance is merely a shadow or perverted reflection. The irrational insistence that material activities cannot be a reflection of the perfect spiritual activities performed by God reflects the unimaginative emotional disposition of those who oppose the reality of Sri Krishna. This psychological disposition of the non-devotees, which leads them to fervently deny the very existence of the absolute person, unfortunately boils down to what may be succinctly described as envy, since the overwhelming majority of the impersonal critics eagerly pursue their own romantic affairs, which they consider quite real and even spiritual. So, due to material desires and impersonalism, they deny Krishna's Rasa Leela. The actual supreme lover is Lord Krishna. The Vedanta Sutra begins by declaring that the absolute truth is the source of everything. And even Western philosophy was born in a somewhat awkward attempt at finding the original one behind the apparent many material existence. Conjugal love, one of the most intense and demanding aspects of human existence, can hardly have nothing at all to do with the supreme reality. So everything in the world is a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. So how is it that there can be dancing and romance in the material world and not in the spiritual? Because everything is coming from Krishna. He's the source of everything. So everything purely romantic, purely spiritual, dancing, it all originates with Krishna. In fact, the conjugal love experienced by human beings is a mere reflection of spiritual reality in which the same love exists in the absolute pristine state. Thus, it is clearly stated here that when Krishna decided to enjoy the romantic atmosphere of autumn, he resorted to his spiritual potency. The spiritual nature of Lord Krishna's conjugal affairs is a major theme in this section of Srimad Bhagavatam. So the reality beyond the reflection is Krishna's dancing of love. And this world is the perversion of romance. Real romance has nothing to do with the material energy or those who have material desires. A woman is attractive because of her sweet sound of voice, her beauty and gentleness, her enchanting fragrance and tenderness, and also because of her cleverness in music and dance. The most attractive ladies of all are the young gopis of Vrindavan, who are Lord Krishna's internal potency. And this chapter tells how he enjoyed their brilliant feminine qualities, even though, as Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti has mentioned, Lord Krishna was an 8-year-old boy when these events took place. So we see that in this Shard autumn season, during the full moon, we have a full moon coming up this Friday, the 15th, the last day of Kartik. And this is the Shard, the Krishna Rasyatra, the Shard Purnima, his special dancing with his internal potency. Some criticize Krishna that he's dancing with others' wives, but he is dancing with his internal potency in the form of the gopis. He's employed his yoga maya potency and he's manifested his desire to enjoy during this autumn night. He looks up and he sees the full moon. And of course, that reminds him of Srimati Radharani, the moon-like face of Sri Radha. And he gets the desire to enjoy with Radha and the gopis. And so he begins to play on his flute. And the gopis, they hear this flute sound. And so they are moved by Cupid to immediately abandon everything, all their household duties, and hastily go to Krishna. And these bodies of the gopis that are going to be with Krishna are purely spiritual. And any body that was left with their so-called husbands at home was a duplicate or so-called material body that remained in their family house with a husband or with family, and even sometimes children. So the pure spiritual bodies went to be with Krishna. So there was no taint in any of this. So the husbands of some of the girls tried to stop them. And in this way, those who were left behind by the desire of Krishna to have them become more purified actually became so purified that they were able to take up their spiritual forms and it said on another night, dance with Krishna. So the gopis, they came before Krishna and he said, so why have you come here? It's not a good place for you. This is the dead of night, and the forest is full of violent creatures, and your husbands and your children, they'll be searching for you, and they'll be worried, where are you? And so you need to go home and take care. Some of you have children, you have your household duties, and your prime duty as a woman is to take care of husband, children, and home. So in that way, he's saying that this is how you make spiritual progress, by doing these duties, and you should go home and do that. And he's telling them, it's not like by physical proximity. You don't have to be with me physically to be enjoying with me. All you have to do is go and see my deity, hear about my pastimes, meditate on me, chant my glories. And so you best go home. So, needless to say, the gopis were really crestfallen to hear all of this, because they had heard the flute call. And it says that in the flute call, all the names, the personal names, each gopi hears her own name in the flute call. So how is it he's calling them and then telling them to go home? This makes them cry. And so they become a bit angry. And they say it's unfair for you to reject young girls we've abandoned everything at home and we've come here to be with you. That's our exclusive desire, is just to serve you. And we're not happy and satisfied just serving our husbands at home. But you're the dearmost one. And you're the one who fulfills our real desires and our real self and our real duties. So if we hear your flute song, it's enchanting us, and it enchants all the world. So how is it that you're calling for us, and then you are tormenting us like this, and we'll be in separation from you? So Krishna, he wants to please the gopis, and he's really satisfied, of course, with them. And so he responds to their appeals. He plays different pastimes with them and shows attention. And this makes them kind of a little proud, spiritual pride. They're proud to be with Krishna. They're proud of Krishna. I mean, their spiritual pride is different from material pride. But in this Leela, Krishna wants to humble their pride. And so what does he do? He suddenly disappears from the rasa arena. This is just so too much. So he's seeing their pride and he just disappears. And why? Well, he wants to increase the power of the loving affairs with the gopis. He wants to increase their love and separation. So he makes this arrangement. And he makes the arrangement to give them special favor, and especially, by increasing their love, and give a special favor to Srimati Radharani. So in the 30th chapter of the 10th canto, it's Krishna, the gopis searching actually for Krishna because he's disappeared. So he's no longer in the arena, and the gopis, they're of course fully absorbed in his thoughts of him, and they're looking for him all over. They're asking all the moving and non-moving creatures, do they know the whereabouts of Krishna? And they finally just become so distraught that they just start imitating Krishna's pastimes to pacify their desire to be with him and pacify the pain of separation. So they're wandering into all the corners of the forest, and then they come upon the footprints of Krishna. They're Krishna's footprints with his marks. And then they see that there's other footprints. It seems to be that his footprints are mixing with the footprints of Radharani. So seeing this, they're, trying to detect, well, what's going on here? And so they're thinking, well, Radharani must have worshipped Krishna better than us. And so she's privileged to have his association and be in seclusion with him now, even though they become perturbed, transcendently perturbed that he's gone away like this. And he's just with Radharani. And then they come to a place where they don't see Radharani's footprints anymore. So they conclude that, well, Krishna must have taken Radharani onto his shoulders. And then in another place, they notice that Krishna's footprints are just his toes. So then they're thinking, well, he must have picked her up and he must have then placed her to pick flowers and put them in her hair. And so they're, like detectives trying to figure out what's going on in this scene here. And so then they're imagining that Krishna, he must be trying to tie up her locks of hair with these flowers. And so this is bringing, pain to their minds that all this is going on. And then is explained that the special attention that Srimati Radharani received made her think, well, I must be the most fortunate woman in the world. And then she tells Krishna that she's tired and she can't really walk anymore. And would he please carry her on his shoulder? And then just then, after this request, Krishna disappears from her sight. And she's so troubled and she's looking everywhere for him. And then finally she meets up with her gopi girlfriends and she relates to them everything that happened. And so they go out to see, where is Krishna in the forest? And they're going far, far into the forest, as far as the moonlight goes. And they're unsuccessful in finding him. So they go to the shore of the Jamuna. And what do? They simply sing songs about Krishna's glories and utter hopelessness. So then that brings us to the beautiful chapter 31, the Gopi Gita, the gopis' songs of separation from Krishna. And there's a very famous verse, text 9 from that chapter, and you've probably heard the Gopi Gita during Kartik. Tava katamritam tapta jivanam kavirbir idinam kamasapaham Shravanamangalam Srimad Atatam Bhuvi Grananti Ye Buddhi Dajanaha. And that translation is the nectar of your words and the descriptions of your activities are the life and soul of those suffering in this material world. These narrations transmitted by learned sages eradicate one's sinful reactions and bestow good fortune upon whoever hears them. These narrations are broadcast all over the world and are filled with spiritual power. Certainly, those who spread the message of Godhead are most munificent. Beautiful verse from the songs of the gopis. So here they are, they're dedicating their lives to Krishna, and they're in such transcendental pain of separation. They're crying and in misery. And this is a very actual exalted state of transcendental bliss. So sometimes it's said that when we see the pure Vaishnav acting unhappily, or we see it as unhappy, we should know that they're actually experiencing the highest spiritual bliss. So the gopis, they started addressing Krishna according to their individual mode of ecstasy, and they're all praying to him for the mercy, you know. And so the pastimes of Krishna spontaneously arise in their minds, and they sing songs about Krishna, and this relieves them of their agony and their suffering and their burning of separation. And so they're singing like, "Oh Lord, oh lover, oh cheater, when we remember your smile, your loving glances, and your pastimes with your boyhood friends, we become extremely agitated, remembering your lotus face adorned with locks of blackish hair, smeared with the dust of the cows. We become irrevocably attached to you. And when we remember how you followed the cows from forest to forest with your tender feet, we feel great pain." So the gopis, of course, are feeling separation like every moment, right? An entire age, every moment seems so long. And so they have these wonderful ecstatic sentiments that they express. And it appears like lust, but we know that in reality, these are manifestations of pure love and pure desire to satisfy the Lord and to satisfy Krishna's spiritual senses. So there's not even a slight trace of lust in the mood of the gopis. So in this beautiful song of the gopis, we conclude that chapter with the song, "Oh, dearly beloved, your lotus feet are so soft that we place them gently on our breasts, fearing that your feet will be hurt. Our life rests only in you. Our minds, therefore, are filled with anxiety that your tender feet might be wounded by pebbles as you roam about in the forest path." So then going on to chapter 32, this is the reunion that Krishna and the gopis have before the rasa dance starts. So the gopis are showing their great eagerness through their beautiful songs, their heartfelt mood, and they are really just seeing Krishna in their heart of hearts as they're singing. And some of the gopis, they become so overwhelmed And they sing and sing and sing. And then Krishna, he's reciprocating with them. And he comes, he appears. He appears in their midst. This is amazing. They're so ecstatic. Some of them are just grasping at his hands and putting their arms around his shoulder, and some he's sharing betel nuts with some. And then some of them are angry at him for what he did. They're biting their lips. And some are so attached, they're just gazing at Krishna in love and just continually seeing him, placing him in their hearts like yogis, just so much heartfelt feelings because of the separation. So then Krishna goes with them to the bank of the Yamuna, and he's with his gopis. And they make a seat for Krishna out of their shawls, and then they sit down and they're enjoying with him by gesturing amorously. And they still feel hurt, because Krishna had disappeared. So he explains why he did that. And he tells them that he has come under their exclusive control because of their loving devotion. And he would remain, of course, always, always indebted to them. He would never not be indebted to them. So this is a great festive time, even though there was such a heartache, right? This heartache was vanquished by the ecstasy of seeing Krishna before them. And that's why they were able to see Krishna in a less angry mood. But still, they were disturbed, like, why he had to do this. It says Krishna had awakened romantic desires within the gopis, and they honored him by glancing at him with playful smiles, gesturing amorously with their eyebrows, and massaging his hands and feet as they held on their lap. Even while worshiping him, however, they still felt somewhat angry, and thus they addressed him as follows. So they're telling Krishna that they've they've given everything to him. So they want to expose Krishna's failure for properly reciprocating their love. So they're disturbed about that, and they want to know why he caused them to suffer in these loving affairs. And so then Krishna says, so-called friends who show affection for each other only to benefit themselves are actually selfish. They have no true friendship, nor are they following the true principles of religion. Indeed, if they did not expect benefit for themselves, they would not reciprocate. So the Lord here in mind reminds the gopis of the pure, loving friendship that's there with no self-interest. And so he says, my dear slender-waisted gopis, some people are genuinely merciful or like parents, naturally affectionate. Such persons who devotedly serve even those who fail to reciprocate with them are following the true, faultless path of religion, and they are true well-wishers. So he's explaining different types of personalities, how they interact. And basically, he's saying that the reason I did not immediately, reciprocate the affection was because I wanted to intensify your loving devotion. And so it becomes kind of like when a poor man gains wealth and loses it and then becomes anxious and can't think of anything else except what he lost. So Krishna is reciprocating with them that by what I have done, you've increased your love and your ecstasy. And this is why I've done this, to reciprocate with your love and increase it. So his so-called neglect is actually fulfillment of the devotee's prayer. So he intensifies our love by apparently separating himself from us. And the result is that we achieve what we really wanted and prayed for. We really want intense love for absolute truth, for Krishna. So in order to intensify that love, to get what we really want, that real pure love, and Krishna will sometimes seem to maybe not be so present in our life, or seems to be not with us, but actually, no, he's actually in thoughtful reciprocation with us, and he's trying to fulfill our deepest and purest desires. This is what he was doing with the gopis, and this is what he's telling all of us, really, that this is what I do when you become my devotees, and it seems that you're suffering in separation, and it seems like I'm not reciprocating. Actually, I am reciprocating, because I am intensifying your love and making your love and your life that much more wonderful. According to the Acharyas, as Lord Krishna began to speak this verse, the gopis looked at one another with squinting eyes, trying to hide the smiles breaking out on their faces. Even as Lord Krishna was speaking, the gopis had begun to realize that he was bringing them to the highest perfection of loving service. How beautiful. So he's telling them, my dear girls, understanding that simply for my sake, you have rejected the authority of worldly opinion, of the Vedas, of your relatives. I acted as I did only to increase your attachment for me. Even when I removed myself from your sight by suddenly disappearing, I never stopped loving you. Therefore, my dear beloved gopis, please do not harbor any bad feelings toward me, your beloved. So here's the Lord indicating that the gopis, they're already perfect in their love, but he's inconceivably increasing their perfection and showing the example for the world, why he did what he did and why he does to us what he does. We may think, well, I have some feeling and he's not reciprocating, but no, he's making our love more and more pure, more and more ecstatic, more and more full. He's doing this, so we should always be patient in these times of anguish and separation and feeling Krishna doesn't care, he's not reciprocating. No. And then he says, I'm not able to repay my debt for your spotless service, even within a lifetime of Brahma. Your connection with me is beyond reproach. You have worshipped me, cutting off all domestic ties, which are difficult to break. Therefore, please let your own glorious deeds be your compensation. So, the gopis, they're eternally glorious because of this behavior. And their love between them and the Lord was, in this whole scene of separation, became wonderfully enhanced. So this is the perfection of the loving exchanges with Krishna and his devotees, and it's coming to its height in the Rasa Leela. So then in the 33rd chapter, the Rasa dance, we see that Krishna, he knows all about Rasa Tattva, of course, he's the Rasaraj. So he knows all the moods and the affections of the different gopis. So he knows how tightly bound they are to him with love and affection and totally dedicated to him. So what he does, he wants to enjoy this rasa dance with them, and they want to satisfy Krishna's senses. They want to serve Krishna. This is Rasa dance is not just, some lusty affair, but they're going to lovingly serve Krishna's senses by singing and dancing and doing gestures amorously and offering this with pure love to Krishna. So there's the sweet voices of the gopis are in all directions being echoed and being offered to the Lord. So he himself, he reciprocates with them by manifesting himself in numerous forms so that each gopi thinks that she's standing next to Krishna and he's just alone with her only. And so they dance and dance and dance. They're becoming fatigued with all the singing and dancing, and they're placing their arms on Krishna's shoulder, trying to get relief from all this transcendental fatigue. And so they're getting the beauty of Krishna's beautiful aroma and the touch of Krishna and the fragrance of Krishna, the lotus and the sandalwood fragrance from Krishna. And so he puts his hands on them to relieve their fatigue and to bless them. And so in this way, they're lovingly exchanging through this real dance of love. And so we see that really in reality, the real enjoyer of Purusha is Krishna, and everyone else is Prakriti or enjoyed. So when someone says, oh, this is wrong, Krishna enjoying with others' wives, so to speak, but actually everyone is Prakriti or wife or energy or the enjoyed by Krishna. Everyone is the object of enjoyment, and Krishna is the actual enjoyer. So he's one without a second, but he expands himself to have this very personal enjoyment in his pastimes. So sometimes it's said that Krishna's dance with the gopis is like a child enjoying his reflection, say in a mirror. If you ever see a child in front of the mirror playing, he's just playing with his own reflection. So Krishna's actually enjoying with his own reflections, his own internal potency manifested in the bodies of the gopis. So in this way, there's nothing tainted, there's nothing wrong. He's enjoying with his own energies manifested by the internal potency of Yogamaya, his own reflections. So Sri Krishna is self-satisfied. He's fully endowed with inconceivable transcendental opulences. So when he has pastimes, he's not enjoying materially, right? He's enjoying his pastimes of Ras Leela so that everyone can be merged into the ocean of astonishment, it says. And so when Maharaj Parikshit is hearing this narration from Shukadev Goswami, he wants to clear up what might be some doubts amongst those in the audience, the august audience listening to Shukadev Goswami narrating this pastime of the conjugal loving pastimes of Krishna with the gopis, which superficially seems to look like activities of lust. So Shukadev Goswami is going to eradicate this doubt. And he says, since Sri Krishna is the absolute enjoyer, such pastimes of these can never be contaminated by any fault. But if anyone other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead tries to enjoy such pastimes, he will suffer the same fate that someone other than Lord Rudra would suffer if he attempted to drink the ocean of poison. Moreover, one who only thinks of imitating Lord Krishna's Rasa Leela will certainly suffer misfortune. So Krishna, he's present in everybody's heart. He's the indwelling witness. And out of his mercy, he's exhibiting this pastime with his devotees, never tainted with any mundane imperfections. And so any person who hears of the spontaneous loving attraction that the gopis have for Lord Krishna, they will have their desires for sense gratification destroyed at the root, and they'll develop a natural propensity for serving the Supreme Lord, the spiritual master, and the Lord's devotees. So just by hearing these pastimes of Krishna and the gopis and the Rasa Leela, it destroys material desires at the root. How can you fully do that in this Kali Yuga? Only by this Sankirtan of hearing and chanting, right? The hearing of the pastimes, the chanting of the holy names. And so this is the great boon, the benediction that's given in this age, is to hear from Shukadev Goswami, hear from the acharyas of these pastimes, so that we can become purified to begin to even understand these pastimes. So what we see here is that Krishna, he's so kind. He sees that after all this dancing, the gopis are very fatigued. So he puts his hands on their faces, comforting them, trying to wipe away the fatigue. And the gopis are smiling at Krishna. He's the hero. The beauty of their cheeks is effulgent, and their curling locks are glistening, and they have golden earrings glittering, and it's a beautiful scene. And then Lord Krishna's garland, he's being crushed, with the embraces, and the garland is colored with the vermilion from the gopis. And so he's looking like he's in the Jamuna. They're all enjoying water pastimes because of the fatigue of the dancing. Krishna brings them to the water pastimes, and he seems to be like a elephant, like a lordly elephant entering the water to relax in the company of his consorts. So it says that indeed the Lord had transgressed all worldly and Vedic morality, just as a powerful elephant might break the dikes in a paddy field. So real morality, one time I heard Prabhupada saying in a lecture, is to obey Krishna and his instructions. So Krishna wanted these loving pastimes, and the devotees, the gopis, they wanted to reciprocate with Krishna's desire and his loving instructions. So that is the supreme morality. So, my dear king, this is Shukadev speaking to King Parikshit. In the water, Krishna found himself being splashed on all sides by the laughing gopis, who looked at him with pure love. As the demigods worshipped him by showering flowers from their airplanes, the self-satisfied Lord took pleasure in playing like the king of the elephants. Then the Lord strolled through a small forest on the bank of the Yamuna. This forest was filled to its limits with breezes, carrying the fragrances of all the flowers growing on the land and in the water, followed by his entourage of bees and beautiful women. Lord Krishna appeared like an intoxicated elephant with his she-elephants. So, such a beautiful scene, especially after all the poignant separation from Krishna. So the gopis, they're so, attached to Krishna. And Krishna, he's like not affected by any kind of mundane sex desire, because sometimes he's accused of, immoral, lusty affairs like Rasa Leela, but he's not internally affected by anything mundane. He has no mundane sex desire. So to perform his pastimes, he took advantage of these moonlit nights in the autumn season, and it's very, very inspiring, beautiful. And so many great poets, they write about this pastime of Krishna with his devotees like Bilvamangala Thakur and Jayadev Goswami and Vyasadeva and Parashar and Govardhanacharya and Rupa Goswami. They all describe this beautiful pastime. They don't have anything to do with mundane affairs, these great acharyas. So how could it be that Krishna is fulfilling mundane desires? It's not possible. These great acharyas have nothing to do with such affairs. So Parikshit Maharaj says, "O Brahman, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Lord of the universe, has descended to this earth along with his plenary portion to destroy irreligion and reestablish religious principles. Indeed, he is the original speaker, follower, and guardian of moral laws. How then could he have violated them by touching other men's wives?" So these doubts need to be cleared up, right? They're harboring doubts. Some of the members of the assembly listening to Shukadev Goswami were not personalists, not Vaishnavas, and so there were some doubts there. So Maharaj Parikshit wants to clear out those doubts so that Krishna and his beautiful pinnacle of love pastime can be fully glorified. "Oh, faithful upholder of vows, please destroy our doubt by explaining to us what purpose the self-satisfied Lord of the Yadus had in mind when he behaved so contemptibly." So that's how it appears. So Shukadev Goswami says, "The status of powerful controllers is not harmed by any apparently audacious transgression of morality we may see in them. For they are just like fire, which devours everything fed into it and remains unpolluted," right? Pure like fire. "One who is not a great controller should never imitate the behavior of ruling personalities, even mentally." So you can't imitate Krishna and his Rasa Leela. If you don't respect Krishna, who he is, and his Rasa Leela, and who are the gopis, if you don't understand who is Krishna and who are these gopis, his internal potencies dancing with him, then you will think, let me also have my own Rasa Leela. "The statements of the Lord's empowered servants are always true, and the acts they perform are exemplary when consistent with these statements. Therefore, one who is intelligent should carry out their instructions." So, all our acharyas, they tell us what is the reality of Krishna's position. He's Ishvar, Parameshwar, he's the supreme. And he has ultimate purposes with all his pastimes, right? And so in this way, we see that he's so powerful, very powerful. What conditioned souls can imitate that? So in this way, we see that Krishna comes to exhibit all these opulences and these wonderful pastimes to attract the conditioned souls. He actually wants to pull us in, attract us with these loving pastimes. He wants to purify us by having the opportunity to hear these loving pastimes. They have a great purpose, not only for the pleasure of Krishna and the gopis, but also for us, the conditioned souls in this world who will become so benefited by hearing his pastimes. So he's coming not to have others imitate him, but he's coming to have us become pure to be able to exchange loving affairs, loving exchanges with him. My dear Prabhu, when these great persons who are free from false ego act piously in this world, they have no selfish motives to fulfill. And even when they act in an apparent contradiction to the laws of piety, they are not subject to sinful reactions. How then could the Lord of all created beings, animals, men, and demigods, have any connection with the piety and impiety that affect his creatures? He's above all that. His activities are just out of pure goodness, and they're never subject to criticism by ordinary living entities. Above all of that, material activities never entangle the devotees of the Supreme Lord, who are fully satisfied by serving the dust of his lotus feet. Nor do material activities entangle those intelligent sages who have freed themselves from the bondage of all fruitive reactions by the power of yoga. So how could there be any question of bondage for the Lord himself, who assumes his transcendental forms according to his own sweet will? He who lives as the overseeing witness within the gopis and their husbands, and indeed within all embodied living beings, assumes forms in this world to enjoy transcendental pastimes. Wow, how beautiful. So it's undeniable fact that any pure or simple-hearted persons who hear these narrations of loving affairs, they will be attracted to Krishna's lotus feet and become his devotees. The coward men, bewildered by Krishna's illusory potency, thought their wives had remained home at their sides. Thus, they did not harbor any jealous feelings against him. So by Yogamaya potency, these kind of, you could say, doubles of the gopis, their material double, the spiritual bodies were with Krishna. So the doubles were manufactured by Maya, and thus the men never actually had any intimate connection with the ladies of Raj. Never would these so-called husbands have any intimate connection with the actual spiritual bodies of the gopis. Their husbands were with their so-called doubles. Krishna arranged their apparent marriage to other men to simply create the excitement of Parakiya Ras, the love between a married woman and her paramour. These activities are absolutely pure because they're the Lord's pastimes, and saintly persons since time immemorial have relished these supreme spiritual events. So there was an entire night of Lord Brahma that passed as the gopis and Krishna danced in Ras Leela. And then after that, he advised them to go home, and they didn't want to, but they were his consorts, and they complied with his command to return home after a night of Brahma. So this compression of time, it happened like that. Just like Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that within the holy Dham, the so-called 40-mile range of the earthly realm of Vrindavan, there's many universes within that. So how is that possible? Everything that's impossible is possible with Krishna. So this is Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, to assure the success of these pastimes, you and I should keep them secret. So we just want to keep in our heart such pastimes and share with those who are able to understand on this level. Otherwise, they might try to be lying, or how however you say, criticize Krishna. So anyone who faithfully hears or describes the Lord's playful affairs with the young girls of Vrindavan will attain the Lord's pure devotional service. Thus, he will quickly become sober and conquer lust, the disease of the heart. So here is the potency of Krishna's pastimes, right? That simply by hearing we can conquer over lust, sex desire for material romance, right? So it's by the causeless mercy of Krishna that he exhibits these pastimes like Rasalila within the world so that we can become attached to these narrations and attached to him and experience spiritual bliss such that we can reject the perverted lust in this world and accept real love. We can reject the perversion, the reflection of real love that's in this world. We can give it up, just like Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita in 259, that we can get a higher taste. He says, though the embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, the taste for sense objects remains. But ceasing such engagements by experiencing a higher taste, he is fixed in consciousness. So we must get this higher taste. We must hear these pastimes of the Lord. It will give us the higher taste. It will help us reject the perversion in this world. It will help us get rid of the desires that are haunting us, the anxieties, the distress, the mental noise, the mental disturbances by getting the higher taste. And you get this boon and benediction by hearing this narration of the Rasa Leela. So we have to become spiritually situated to give up the lower taste. So hearing from the authorities like Srila Prabhupada, Shukadev Goswami, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, all those who are our acharyas, we can hear these pastimes from them and get purified to understand the pastimes and then become so much relieved of the material lust and actually begin to chant the holy names and gradually realize the Lord's form and pastimes and qualities and his love through the chanting of the holy names. The chanting of the holy names is a circle, like a circle dance of the Rasa Leela, where we're associating with Krishna and the gopis, the 108 beads. So this chanting is the Rasa Leela, just like in Srivasangam in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, they would have the evening night kirtans. It was considered to be non-different than the Rasa Leela in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, where they would have this chanting of the holy names and experience the beautiful, loving exchanges of Lord Gauranga with his associates. So we will have these wonderful exchanges and when we're chanting the holy names in japa and kirtan, and if we're not feeling it now, we shouldn't worry. We should just see. It's told by Shukadev Goswami, by Prabhupada, over and over again by the acharyas. Just keep hearing these narrations, and these holy names will free you, and you will become happy. You will actually enjoy real love. You will see that Krishna Rasyatra is real dance of love. And you will be having Krishna and Radha and his associates dancing with you as you're chanting the holy names. So let us patiently get the mercy and blessings to someday have those realizations by following the footsteps, not imitating, but following the footsteps of the residents of Vrindavan on this wonderful day in Kartik. So we offer our obeisances to Akadashi Devi and to all our acharyas and to all of the Brajbasis, all of these wonderful gopis, to Sri Krishna, Srimati Radharani, and all of the devotees. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, dear Nidra Prabhu, for joining, and thank you, dear Vaishnavis, also for joining. What an enlightening class. Shri Radhi Mataji had to leave. Just to wrap it up, so many wonderful, things that you mentioned. I was really appreciating how you were sharing about the flute call where all the personal names of the gopis were called. So that's amazing. And the gopis had so much love for Krishna, and I appreciate how you were sharing that, at times we may not feel, the Lord's reciprocation, but he's just making our love more ecstatic. So that's, something that I will try to, try to remember and implement in my life to make, thinking into to remembering that Krishna is making, he does reciprocate, but he does at his terms, not my terms.
Thank you so
Yes.
much. Really appreciate your association. And just to ask you for December,
Mhm.
there's a whatever you all would like. There's the Mokshita Kadasi Advent of the Bhagavad Gita, which would be the second week of December. And then the third week is disappearance of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So the day before each of those is the Tuesday. So if you wanted a particular Tuesday, either December 10th or December 17th, whatever would be best, but those are two themes that could be spoken on.
Yeah, so maybe on the 10th you do
Bhagavad
a
Gita.
Gita.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Gita. Yeah, that would be
Sure,
nice.
sure, that would be wonderful. Okay, so we'll do that on the 10th and prepare for Mokshita Ekadashi Gita Jayanti.
No,
Okay,
wonderful.
thank you so much. I really appreciate everybody. Just all that you do and all of your services. And let us take up the call of Krishna's flute, however it comes to us. Maybe it comes in instructions through the guru or reading instructions or understanding we should, do certain things. And Krishna's calling us, okay, do your japa, try to be attentive. And so we want to hear the call. We want to hear it and we want to act on it and we want to be able to, take up the call. And no matter what happens, even if we think Krishna's not with us, he's not reciprocating, but we want to take up that call, take up the instructions and go on patiently. So thank you so much.
Yeah, so any Vaishnavis, any sharing, anything you want to appreciate Nidra Prabhu for her class and her time?
Thank you so much, Mother Nidra. It was really a nectar for the ears, and you give us a
Jai
right
Kishore.
perspective to how to see these pastimes so that we don't make offenses. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for your services and thanks for being on. I really am happy that you're with us today. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mataji. It was pure nectar for the heart and the ears.
Hi, Komala. Yeah, just really, even though, some of these devotees that are on, I see them, at the temple, but it's so special to be together for the Krishna Katha. So I'm so happy.
Thank you so much, Mataji. It was really wonderful. Amazingly, you have explained. And
Thank
just
you.
Rasalila pastimes and hearing all this stuff. Nice to hear in the very auspicious day of Dev Gyaras today here in India. Thank you so much for your association and all the dear Vaishnavis. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you. Thank you, Jai Shri
Thank
Radhika.
everyone.
Thank you. That was just so sweet to have you from India. Yeah, thank you, Rukmini Priya Devi, for all your service and association. And so we'll keep in touch for the December. Yeah, everyone have a wonderful last week of Kartik. And my
Thank you so much.
my
Hare
obeisances
Krishna.
to all. Vanchakalpatarishya,
Sarvascha
Kripasinubhyavcha,
Kripalasinubhyavcha
Patitanam
Patitanam
Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo
Vaishnavebhyo
Namaha.
Namo. Have a
Yeah,
good day.
thank
Haribo.
you. All
Hare
of you have a wonderful day.
Thank
And
you. Hare Krishna.
Hare